Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel Curiosity Rocks, and this video is another autism education video, and the video is all about empathy. Now I've got my book with my notes. So the Oxford Dictionary definition of this is really cliche to start off. Sorry, my sentence went wrong. I was just saying to myself, this is a really cliched way to start a speech using a dictionary definition. But I'm going with it. The Oxford Dictionary definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So that's the overall view of what empathy is. Now that was fine until oh my god, this is hard. Simon Baron Cohen came up and his et al. Came up with this idea that the dictionary definition of empathy isn't quite good enough. Let's split it into cognitive empathy and affective empathy. I've got some info on my iPad. And cognitive empathy, to infer what someone else is thinking or feeling, and they say there's another component known as affective empathy, which is the drive to respond with an appropriate emotion to someone else's mental states. Now this is a sort of preconceived idea. Well, it seems to me it was a preconceived idea by Simon Baron Cohen to give validity to his own theory. So it's sort of, they began work in this area. This is an article from the Autism Research Centre.com, and the research title is Empathy in Autism Spectrum Conditions. And there's lots of people. And it says, the ARC began work in this area by studying theory of mind deficits. Now, from what I've read, the way they tested this was with little children who are obviously, the little children overall obviously find it harder to explain their emotional states and how they come to decisions. It's harder for any kid to do that than it is for an adult. So first of all, that is a flaw in the test. The Salian test, which if you'd like to look it up yourself, is you get a character and another character, and there's two boxes. And now Sally put a sweet in one box and then walks away, and then the other character takes that sweet and puts it in the other box, and then the other character comes back and the characters are both there. Which box will that character look in? And then a child points, and from the child pointing to a box, they come up with this whole theory that autistic kids lack empathy. That's what their whole theory is. From a load of little kids pointing at boxes, they came up with this theory. Now, to me, that shows a remarkable lack of empathy on these so-called experts, these adult experts, by inferring from that test, that box, oh, that means you don't have empathy. That means we have to categorise you into different empathy types and write papers about it. So that shows a remarkable lack of empathy by the actual researchers, that they decided that this is valid. And unfortunately, because of these papers that came out, the media twisted it. They picked up on this, twisted it, and now there is the invasive and inaccurate idea that autistic people, lack empathy. So this study, Sally Ann test, was incredibly damaging and created prejudice and a lot of bullying and a lot of misunderstanding towards autistic people. So thank you, Simon Baron-Cohen. So this is where this myth sort of originated from. And I read a newspaper article online, and it's had the most infuriating fact in their article, and it says autistic people are born with an innate lack of empathy. Now that is a very damaging statement to make and is completely inaccurate and very, very, very wrong. So that the person who wrote that article showed their lack of empathy by not like accepting that would be a very damaging statement to make. So, and then there's politicians who lack empathy. Oh, we'll take the money away from those people, we'll take the money away from those people. Oh, we'll do this and we'll take that away from those people. What we're going through in Britain at the moment is a lot of politicians in power with a very much lack of empathy, and they are not autistic, and they're the ones who are hurting a lot of people. And then there's politicians in America who hurt a lot of people. And there's loads of people who are not autistic who hurt a lot of people. And another accepted thing among neurotypical world is that it's okay to lie and not be honest, and it's okay to want to be admired for looks and what their body looks like. And there's things like Heat magazine say, and there's all these mainstream magazines which are created by neurotypical people, and they're all look at her wrinkles, look at her boobs, look at her nose, oh, isn't she pretty, no she's ugly, oh, isn't he buff, no he's weedy, no he's this, she's wrong, that's wrong, she's wrong, this is wrong, should do this, shouldn't do that. And there's all this criticising, and there's all this sparks of criticism are coming from neurotypical sources. And they say autistic people are the ones who lack empathy. And that's really infuriating and confusing. And how do people come up with that? So I've done that point. Now I'm going to explain how my empathy works in my head, and the way I'm going to do that is using the level of light on this video. So I'm going to adjust the brightness on the video with my Logitech advanced settings function, because we did have a dimmer switch in this lounge, but then we sort of had a bit of housework, like house DIY stuff, house remodelling, and we lost it to just a normal switch. It used to be a dimmer, so I was going to use the dimmer switch, but then I realised we haven't got one anymore. So I'm using the brightness, the advanced settings of my computer. So, because overall there is no such thing as having a box that is cognitive empathy and affective empathy. That's just bollocks, basically. I'm sorry that I swear, but I feel the need to swear to get out how angry I am about something. And anyway, that's not the topic of this video. Swearing? No, it's not. So I think that what they came up with, they had to split it into two boxes and say there's this type of empathy and there's this type of empathy, which is, it's just confuses the issue and it's wrong. So I'm showing you how empathy works in my brain through light. Now, so I'm going to turn down the brightness for the first layer, because it's more like it's in layers, and this is a visual way to explain, because I feel it a lot easier to explain with being visual rather than with words. So here we go. Now this, actually, let's make it a bit darker than that. So this level of empathy is my logical empathy. It's and in this layer is sort of an overall world view on politics in this layer, and it's where I feel the empathy in a more logical fashion. It's more like a sort of map of logical ideas and logical thinking, and just like a map in my brain, and it's not necessarily emotional, it's more logical, and just there's like no emotion behind it. It's just like a textbook. I said I wasn't going to mix my metaphors, but it's sort of textbook factual information, and this is how it feels my brain works with politics and world events. It understands that it is upsetting, that things in the world are either upsetting to a nation and a lot of people. I understand that other people will feel things about it, but it doesn't spark off big emotions in me, so it's quite down the levels. And it's so it's really hard to explain, because obviously I don't know what it is like to be a neurotypical and how empathy works in neurotypical brains. But instead of like thinking, having all of politics and every single event in the world being our top priority emotion-wise, it's everything's set down in layers. So let's bring the brightness up slightly. So now this is this layer would be my emotions and empathy about strangers, and probably also celebrities that I don't personally have a passion for. So this is like, I see things that have happened to individuals, and I understand that they are sad events, and I support campaigns about things and people who go missing, and I think about that, but it doesn't spark off like a major emotion of crying and really being really upset about it. It's like an understanding of the emotion of being upset or being happy, but I guess I find happy stuff easier to get emotional about. But it's sort of like, yes, that's happening. I see that it is a sad thing to you or an emotional thing, but to me, it's more of a logical thing. So the next stage is about friends and relatives. I I'll get upset and cry if when bad things happen, but it's more of a conversation of trying to understand things, and and I can be influenced by the rest of my family, like mum and dad. If they get angry about another family member, I'll just start getting angry, but it won't be because I'm actually angry. I'm just like sort of copying and sort of being angry, and then mum's like, oh well, stop being angry, not angry about that. We was like, okay. And it's sort of that with friends, it's, I don't know, I get upset when they're upset, and I don't really understand it, because there's also certain people who I get happy and I like mingling with people, and I do love a lot of people. But say I would cry, but I wouldn't get like screaming, ugly crying. I'd like crying and then sort of keep it inside, really. I don't know, I guess it may just, so that actually it would probably be that brightness for friends and relatives. So, but the brightest one, this is how I get about fiction and animals. When my kittens died, there's a man, he came to the door, mum answered the door, and he had one of my kitten's collar in his hand, and she'd been run over, and I was screaming the place down, basically. And the other week, my cat had an abscess which burst, and I thought, so it was a lot of icky, bloody mucus, and I got really upset, and was like crying and screaming and wanting my daddy to come home, and and I was really upset. So I got really upset about animals being hurt and loving animals. That's really powerful. And fiction, I can just sob my heart out at fiction, or be really happy at fiction, or really angry at people's motivations and stuff. And Sims free play, this goes into, I tend to project the sensory input that I'm feeling, I tend to project it onto toys. Like the other day, I was getting some more things, because I'm going to do some more little comedy videos of my Sylvanian families, and I was thinking, I bought that because it took me ages, but that room's got to have a door on it, otherwise they'll be cold, because I was feeling, I was kind of cold at the time, and they'd be cold, and then, oh, but that toy can't sit on that Lego, because the Lego's gonna hurt their arse, and it's not very comfortable having Lego, so I need to get them something soft to sit on, because it's like I project that the toys will perceive things as a human would perceive them, so you have to keep them warm, and you have to make sure they don't sit on Lego bricks, even if it's just an action figure. I can't have it sit on a Lego brick because it will hurt its bum. So I tend to project my own sensory input onto Lego people or toys and stuff. And when I'm playing Sims free play, what made me so happy was that they actually take off their daytime clothes to go to bed, because I can very easily in my mind create feelings of stuff, and it made me so happy that they take off their clothes so they're all comfortable, and then they get into their bed and it's all cozy, because that feels really nice when you take off your daytime clothes and get into bed. So I tend to project what feels nice for me onto Sims, because I used to, because I used to torture Sims, but then I got a bit OCD and about being like, because I used to say sorry, I still do, I have this thing where I say sorry to God. So it got me a bit obsessed with it. So I don't torture my Sims anymore because I get scared that it will karma me. So the karma of torturing Sims would come back on me. So that's a bit like part of my thinking. But I really like when making sure they have a drink and making sure they have a sleep and are having a good time. It makes me really happy. Just like when they have like just a nice room and making sure it's cozy and everything, because I feel all the textures in my mind and perceive how it's going to feel for these toys or Sims characters. So on this level of regarding fiction, I've like things on Buffy and Doctor Who, it's when my emotion spills out the most when it's something fictional that I'm really into. I just sob my heart out at Doctor Who sometimes. Well, a lot of the times I sob my heart out about Doctor Who, and I sob my heart out about Spike when he got his soul back. I was like, I'm so happy for him. It's totally ugly crying. This apparently is a new thing that people say. There's crying and there's ugly crying when you just can't stop sobbing. And so I cry a lot, and I haven't been doing my planner stickers for like a few days because I was happy focusing on determinedly finishing reading all the Poldark novels. And I was just so happy that I finished the Poldark novels, and it was a happy ending, that I was very shaky afterwards and exhausted, but I was really happy. And there's books where I've sobbed too. So fiction is like this, it sparks my brain to this mega brightness. So animals and fiction, and this mega brightness is also sparked off when people actually come and tell me if they're upset or what they are feeling, or people being angry. So this level of emotion is sparked off when people communicate, use their words to tell me they feel something, and then it will spark this level of empathy and emotion when people tell me. That's what the issue is, that neurotypicals, they don't actually express themselves in words to actually tell us how they are feeling. I think the issue is with neurotypical communication, that it won't open up. They keep themselves closed and expect autistic people to learn to interpret them, whereas it would be very easy for them to just say, I feel this, I feel that, and then if you feel that I'm really sad, I need a hug, I'll give you a hug. It's easy, really. Like when we were burying my first kitten, my dad burst into tears, sobbing, and it was a bit scary for me, but I put my arm around him and I said about this toy we were going to put in. I said, but Bucky might like this because it smells like a sister, and I hugged my dad. So when it's obviously communicated a feeling, that's when I feel it myself and react, and that works with inside out. It works with all the levels of emotions. I can totally feel it, but if neurotypicals keep it all zipped up and don't communicate, then I can't really achieve this level of empathy and emotion and do something about it. because they don't communicate. So neurotypicals, if you want somebody to, if you want some autistic person to give their emotion and attention to you, communicate. Don't just expect people to, like, apparently we're meant to just read from expressions, like, apparently this is what I don't get. Us autistic people are meant to, like, just interpret something, like, just by the squidge of an eyebrow or a slight curl up of a mouth, or apparently we're meant to make eye contact all the time, because apparently the slightest twinkle of an eye, we're meant to interpret this code of what eyes mean. That's so backwards. It's just the wrong way round. Like, you expect autistic people to make eye contact, and then you've got to, then there's the eyes, they will retract. The pupils will go bigger or they'll go smaller, and you're meant to understand the amount of moisture in those eyes means something, and the fact that those eyes are bigger means something, those eyes are smaller means something, those eyes are looking whatever way, that means something. You've got to learn that. So you're asking us autistic people to learn a completely new language. That is what it's like, learning a completely new language, whereas all you have to do is just to say how you feel. And you expect us to actually interpret all this body language that you're, instead of you just, because I'm sure that neurotypicals find it very easy to just say stuff, just communicate. I'm assuming they find it really easy to communicate, except they shut themselves up and expect autistic people to learn a whole new foreign language and learn all these different billions of expected responses to this foreign language, when you expect us to do all the work to relate to you, whereas it's very easy for you to just communicate and use your words. It's very confusing to us. It's just use your words. Tell us. So that's my video about empathy. Please do send me questions that I can clarify each video, because each video I start, before each video I sort of plan it in my head, and then inevitably there's little points that sort of fall away and I forget. So if you could send me the questions to clarify things I've said in this video, and also your overall questions about autism that you want to understand, then please keep your questions coming in, and please share all my autism education videos, please. So that's my video about empathy. Right. Wow. I hope you have found this very interesting and educative, and I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. Thank you.